All right, so let's get right into it. Today's top cybersecurity news. It's December 17th, 2024, and, well, we've got a lot to unpack.
Yeah, definitely a lot to cover today. Let's dive in.
First up, Meta got slapped with a hefty fine, 251 million euros, by Ireland's Data Protection Commission.
Oh, wow.
This is all stemming from that 2018 Facebook data breach. Remember that View As
Oh,
feature?
vaguely.
Hackers exploited that to get access tokens for 29 million accounts.
Yeah, that was a big one. And this fine really shows how serious GDPR is. They're not messing around.
Not at all. This
Yeah.
is about setting a precedent. And the fact that Meta's appealing the decision, well, that shows how much this is hurting them.
Yeah, both financially and their reputation. They're not going down without a fight.
Definitely not. Now, speaking of setting precedents, CISA is looking for public comment on the updated National Cyber Incident Response Plan.
The NCIRP.
Exactly. This is the playbook for dealing with major cyber incidents. And it really emphasizes collaboration between the public and private sectors.
It's all about working together, right? Which we talk about a lot. But this is where it actually gets put into practice. How do we as a nation respond to a large-scale attack?
And everyone in the cybersecurity world should weigh in on this.
Yeah.
It's our chance to shape how we defend ourselves.
Absolutely. We need all hands on deck for this one.
Now, while we're on the topic of CISA, they and the FBI are sending out some serious warnings about a couple of actively exploited vulnerabilities.
Oh, yeah. Which ones?
One's targeting Adobe ColdFusion, and it allows for unauthorized access.
Okay.
And the other hits the Windows kernel, which can lead to privilege escalation.
And the scary thing is there's already proof of concept code out there.
Yeah, organizations need to patch these vulnerabilities. ASA.
Like yesterday.
No kidding. It's like they're giving away the keys to the kingdom. And speaking of attacks, Okta is seeing a huge spike in phishing attacks, impersonating their support team.
Yeah, phishing is getting more and more sophisticated. It's not just about bad grammar and shady links anymore.
Nope. They're creating emails that look totally legit. They're preying on our trust in those big-name brands.
And unfortunately, the education and healthcare sectors are being hit hard again. Texas Tech University's Health Sciences Center was hit with a ransomware attack, impacting a whopping 1.4 million people.
Wow, that's personal info, health records, financial details, all compromised.
It's a nightmare. And educational and healthcare institutions are often easy targets because they have so much sensitive data, but their security practices sometimes aren't as strong as they could be.
They're struggling to keep up with all the new threats.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. And then there's this phishing campaign targeting Pakistan using tax-themed lures delivered through malicious Microsoft MSE files.
So attackers are getting creative.
Oh, absolutely. They know how to play on our fears. Tax season is always a good time to exploit people's anxieties. And MSC files aren't inherently bad, but they can be used to deliver malware.
Right. People let their guard down when they see a file that seems harmless.
Exactly. And that's when the attackers strike.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk about some emerging threats. Rooftop solar is becoming super popular, but experts are raising concerns about security vulnerabilities in those systems.
Yeah, that's a new one.
What if hackers could mess with the power grid through unsecured solar panels? It's not just about data breaches anymore. It's about disrupting essential services.
It's kind of ironic. We're pushing for clean energy, but we also need to think about the security implications of these new technology.
We can't just tack on security as an afterthought.
It needs to be built in from the beginning.
And it's not just solar panels. The FBI is warning about hiatus rat, a malware that targets IoT devices like webcams and DVRs.
They're exploiting default credentials and known vulnerabilities to turn those devices into spying tools.
People think, oh, it's just a webcam. But these devices are often connected to our home networks.
Which can be a gateway to other more sensitive systems.
And the scary part is a lot of people never bother changing those default passwords.
It's like leaving the door wide open.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of bad news. Let's look at some proactive measures. CISA is really pushing for stronger cloud security. They're making federal agencies implement secure cloud business application standards.
Scooby.
Right? This is a direct response to the SolarWinds breach. They're trying to tighten up cloud security and improve visibility.
It's all about learning from those past mistakes and preventing them from happening again.
And speaking of proactive measures, Pennsylvania Representative Chris DeLuzio just introduced a bill to allocate $25 million for cybersecurity improvements in water utility.
Oh, wow, that's great.
This is following that attack on the Pennsylvania Municipal Water Authority that was linked to Iran.
Yeah, water is critical infrastructure. We can't let our water systems be vulnerable.
This bill is a step in the right direction, but it's just the tip of the iceberg.
It's a start, though.
Exactly. Every little bit helps. And let's not forget about small businesses. They might not make the headlines, but they're just as vulnerable to cyber attacks.
Absolutely. And they don't need a huge budget to improve their security. Simple things like antivirus software, multi-factor authentication, regular backups, and using cloud services like Google Drive or Microsoft Azure can make a big difference.
It's about being proactive, not reactive. And speaking of lessons learned, Rhode Island is a perfect example of what happens when cybersecurity warnings are ignored. They're dealing with a massive data breach after years of their Auditor General flagging system vulnerabilities.
Oh man, that's rough. They could have prevented this.
The Auditor General was sounding the alarm, but no one listened. Now they're paying the price.
It's a classic case of pay now or pay later.
And in acquisition news, Cisco just bought SnapAttack to boost their SIEM platform Splunk.
Interesting. What do they do?
SnapAttack specializes in threat detection lifecycle management. So this move is all about improving Splunk's threat detection and response capabilities.
It sounds like Cisco is making a play to be a leader in the SIEM market.
Makes sense. SIEM platforms are becoming more and more important as attacks get more complex. And if you're looking for some in-depth info on managing OT and ICS environments, the 2024 OT Cybersecurity Technology Report from CS2AI and Rediflow is worth checking out.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things about that report.
It's based on surveys of over 350 industry professionals, so it's full of real-world insights. It covers everything from securing legacy systems to improving network visibility and building stronger partnerships between OT ICS providers and their clients.
It sounds like a valuable resource for anyone in that field.
Definitely.
Uh,
And last but not least, the automotive cybersecurity market is about to explode. It's projected to reach almost $14 billion by 2031. This is all about securing connected vehicles and advanced driver assistance systems.
Basically making sure our cars don't get hacked.
Right. We're talking about protecting data, but also ensuring the safety of drivers and passengers. The stakes are high.
Absolutely. And as we move towards more autonomous vehicles, cybersecurity becomes even more crucial.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, but we're not done yet.
So let's talk about a vulnerability that really shook up the WordPress world. CCE 2024-6386.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that one.
This was a critical remote code execution vulnerability, and it affected over 1 million websites.
1 million? Wow.
Yeah, all using the WordPress multilingual plugin WPML.
Okay, so what made this vulnerability so bad?
Well, it all came down to a server-side template injection vulnerability, an SSTI vulnerability,
Right.
in the Twig template engine that WPML uses. And essentially, this let attackers inject malicious code that then got executed on the server.
So they could potentially take over the entire website.
Yeah, pretty much. They could steal data, manipulate files, even execute commands on the server. It was a big deal.
Yikes. I bet website owners were freaking out.
Oh, yeah. And to make matters worse, the patch for this vulnerability took 62 days to be released.
62 days? That's a long time.
It is, especially considering it had a CVSS score of 9.9, which means it was super critical.
So this really highlights the importance of patching vulnerabilities quickly.
Absolutely. Every day that a vulnerability goes unpatched is another day that attackers can exploit it.
So for all the WordPress users out there, update WPML right now. But beyond that, what can they do to protect themselves?
Well, the best defense is a good offense. So make sure you're updating your plugins regularly, use strong passwords, and consider implementing some security plugins.
Good advice. Now, switching gears a bit, CISA has added 2 more flaws to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog.
Okay, fill me in.
We've got an Adobe ColdFusion access control flaw, CVE 2024-20767, and a Windows kernel mode driver vulnerability, CVE 2024-35250.
Both pretty serious.
Yeah, the ColdFusion flaw could let attackers get their hands on sensitive data, and the Windows kernel vulnerability could give them elevated privileges.
So basically, they could take control of the whole system.
Exactly. And CISA has issued a binding operational directive BOD 22-1, which means federal agencies have to fix these vulnerabilities by a certain deadline.
So this is a call to action for everyone, not just government agencies.
Absolutely. Everyone needs to take these warnings seriously and patch those systems.
No time to waste.
Now let's talk about the cloud leads. Researchers have found some pretty nasty flaws in Azure Data Factory's Apache Airflow integration.
Interesting.
This is a service that a lot of organizations use for data processing in the cloud. And these vulnerabilities could have let attackers get unauthorized, write permissions, mess with DAG files, even compromise Azure Kubernetes service clusters.
AKS clusters, that's not good.
Not at all. It could have led to data corruption service disruptions, even malware being deployed in the cloud.
And I bet these vulnerabilities had something to do with misconfigurations in Kubernetes RBAC.
You guessed it, RBAC is a crucial security control in Kubernetes, and any misconfiguration can open up a whole can of worms.
In this case, it could have let attackers escalate privileges and access sensitive resources.
Exactly. And while Microsoft has said that this isn't a widespread issue, they have admitted that some organizations might need to make some changes.
So something to keep an eye on.
Definitely. Organizations using Azure Data Factory need to review their configurations, enforce strict RBAC policies, and audit their cloud environments regularly.
Sounds like good security hygiene in general.
It is. And speaking of securing the cloud, CISA is now requiring federal agencies to follow secure cloud business applications standards.
Bad.
Yep. This is all about improving cloud security and preventing another SolarWinds-type breach.
Makes sense. We need to learn from those past mistakes.
It's all about implementing stricter configurations, better monitoring, and using those scuba toolkits that Microsoft and Google have put together.
So this is mainly for federal agencies, but I'm guessing CISA would like to see private organizations adopt these standards too.
Absolutely. The principles of scuba are relevant to anyone using cloud services. It's about building a secure foundation for your cloud operations.
Good point. Now let's shift gears again and talk about Cisco's recent acquisition of SnapAttack.
They're bringing them on board to enhance their SIEM platform, Splunk.
Splunk. Interesting. So what does SnapAttack bring to the table?
Well, they specialize in threat detection lifecycle management, and they use AI. So Cisco is basically trying to beef up Splunk's threat detection and response capabilities.
I see Cisco wants to be a major player in the SIEM market.
It's a smart move. SIEM platforms are becoming more and more critical as the threat landscape gets more complex.
No doubt about it.
Now, if you want to dive deeper into the world of OT and ICS cybersecurity, there's a great report you should check out. The 2024 OT Cybersecurity Technology Report from CS2AI and ReadyFlow.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that one. It's supposed to be really insightful.
It is. It's based on surveys of over 350 industry professionals. So it gives you a real-world perspective on the challenges and best practices in OT and ICS security.
I'm guessing they talk about securing legacy systems.
They do.
Yeah.
And they also highlight the need for better network visibility and stronger partnerships between OT ICS providers and their clients.
It's all about collaboration, right?
Okay.
Especially when it comes to OT and ICS security.
Absolutely. As these environments become more interconnected, we need to break down those silos between IT and OT.
We need to work together to address the risks.
Now, for our last topic, let's talk about the automotive cybersecurity market.
It's booming, right?
It is. It's projected to reach almost $14 billion by 2031. And it's all about securing connected vehicles and advanced driver assistance systems.
Making sure our cars don't turn into weapons.
Exactly. It's not just about protecting data anymore. It's about protecting lives.
And as we move towards autonomous driving, the stakes get even higher.
Absolutely. Cybersecurity needs to be a top priority for the entire automotive industry. We need to build security into these vehicles from the ground up.
Can't treat it as an afterthought anymore.
Not a chance.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? Vulnerabilities, acquisitions, industry reports.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I wanted to circle back to the automotive cybersecurity market for a minute.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's growing like crazy, and for good reason. As cars get more connected and rely more on software, they're becoming prime targets for cyber attacks.
And it's not just about stealing data anymore. We're talking about potentially disabling critical safety systems, messing with navigation, even taking control of the car.
Scary thought.
Yeah, the consequences could be disastrous.
Yeah.
We're talking about people's lives here.
And it's not just about the cars themselves either. It's the whole ecosystem. The
Yeah.
manufacturing process, the supply chain, the infrastructure that supports connected vehicles.
It's a complex web of systems.
That all need to be secure.
Absolutely.
It's a huge challenge, but we can't ignore it. Cybersecurity has to be a top priority for the entire automotive industry.
We need to be proactive, not reactive. Anticipate threats, build in resilience, and constantly adapt as the threat landscape changes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, I think we've covered all the major cybersecurity news for today.
Yeah, I'd say we've done a pretty thorough deep dive.
So to all our listeners out there, stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay secure.
And don't forget, Cybersecurity HQ is your one-stop shop for all things cybersecurity. We've got job postings, in-depth reports, breaking news, and a weekly newsletter that's read by over 70,000 cybersecurity professionals.
Cybersecurity HQ, your hub for everything you need to stay ahead of the curve in this ever-evolving world of cybersecurity.